Good morning, and good morning again. Happy Saturday to you. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful Saturday it is to be alive. We thank and praise Almighty God for another opportunity to come and share with you. Want to say welcome to all of you who are joining us by way of Facebook Live. We certainly greet you today in Jesus' joy. To those of you who are joining by way of YouTube, we certainly want to greet you as well, those who may even be joining by phone. We say thank you for joining today. We want to give you an opportunity to give God praise. Listen, today, the fact that you were found on the wake up list. That's right, my friend. The fact that you were found on the list of those to be woke up this morning. What a mighty God we serve. I'm excited. Because the reality is somebody had plans for today. Who am I talking to on a Saturday? But it was not the Lord's will. And so the fact that he's given us another day is another opportunity. I want to welcome you once again. And then I want to share with you, we've got a wonderful session for you today. And I want to share with you how you can help somebody else to tune in with us. It's very simple. They can go to our Facebook Live handle, Dr. K.O. Williams Space Ministry, or they could even go to our YouTube channel, Dr. K.O. Williams Space Ministry. You can even dial in. If a person doesn't have a social media presence, we have a dial-in number down at the bottom. And always take a moment to highlight the fact that if you have other coaching subjects that you want us to dive into, this is a coaching series. We try to bring you up-to-date, practical information and tools to put in your toolbox so you can send us something down there in the Your Voice section, bit.ly/Real Talk Your Voice. And it'll put you right in touch with us. Just think now, for 60 minutes every Saturday, we've tried to be diligent, and we're not going to be any less different today. Addressing life's issues, straight, honest, transparent conversation. We're not trying to hide anything, but this is not for kids. This is for folks who are trying to be able to make the next step and make it count. Again, we pride ourselves in bringing you tools to put in your toolbox. Today is no different. I absolutely want to get at it today. We're talking about a topic we started on last week, and boy, we want to take this topic just a little bit further today. We're talking about this subject called trauma. Yes, when we think about trauma is something that if you live in this life, it is inescapable. We all have our encounters with trauma. The reality then becomes, how do you handle the trauma? Or what steps do you take to deal with the trauma? I'm telling you right now, I want you to do me a favor. Hit that share button, that like button, say hello, good morning, and I promise you, we'll give you a shout out as well. I want to say good morning to Sister Ethel all the way up in the Virginia area. We're certainly glad that you tuned in with us today. We're talking about this subject called trauma. Listen, the fact that you woke up this morning, I got to tell you that trauma is all around us. There are things that happen to us that are life-changing. And I came today to talk, Reverend Tally Brame, God bless you, all the way in the Warrenton area today. My cousin, Renika, thank you for joining all the way down in the Jacksonville, Swansboro area. Listen, I want to go right to the topic today because there are so many people who are dealing with trauma in the church. Who am I talking to today? You're doing the best that you can, and then you end up with trauma, these life-changing events, listen, that you didn't even sign up for. Listen, trauma on the job. Who is it that I'm speaking to on today? The truth of the matter is that if you open your eyes today, that there is trauma all around us, trauma in our families. Listen, I want to talk to somebody today. You're trying to figure out, what is this major incident in my family? My friends, it creates what we scientifically know to be the word trauma. These life life-changing events. Now, I want to tell you, not only is there trauma in the church, I've been there. I've experienced it firsthand, trying my best to do my Christian duty. And I got folks, amen, who are trying to put stumbling blocks in my way, trying their best to give me a setback. But I got some news for you today, that if you put your hand in the Lord's hand, he will give you ways to handle the trauma. Trauma in the church, trauma in your families, trauma, listen, on the job. And I got some news for you. Sometimes trauma even in the community. Listen, the community is trying its best to move the community forward. And then you got these naysayers. Yes, I want to tell you, these haters. I come today, I'm trying my level best. Deacon James Williams from Diggs Memorial, God bless you this morning. Always good to hear you. I want to put my weight this morning on trauma. This thing that comes up, it pops up, and can I give you some notification? It's usually at the most unwelcome times. Am I talking good to anybody today? The fact that you're trying your level best to do your duty, and out of nowhere encounters this thing called trauma. Good morning, Dr. Carol Montague Davis, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Glad to see you. We have, listen today, 8 tips on how to handle trauma, because what we find is you can't stop the trauma from coming. But oh, bless the name of Jesus, you can have some life-changing tips to help you when the trauma comes. Because what I have found, I've been on a campaign trying to talk to people who say to themselves, hey, if I do right, if I live right, if I mind my business, if I stay to myself, then I should have a trauma-free life. And my friend, you couldn't be any further from the truth. As a matter of fact, what we find is that if trauma is in your life, it's usually an indicator that your best days are ahead of you. But you got to know and recognize the signs. And that's what I wanted to talk to somebody about today. Listen, you're trying to make sense of the mess. But I came by to tell you, sometimes it's not about trying to make sense of it. It's just about, do you have the right tools in your toolbox to manage the trauma? Because can I tell you something, that when you make your mind up that you're going to the next level, you're going to that next career. Listen, my friend Robin, amen. Good morning, my friend. It's been a moment since I've seen you all the way down in the Jacksonville area. I certainly am grateful for you as well, and in the Greensboro area as well. I wanted to talk today. I want to put my weight on this thing called trauma. I'm seeing too many good, solid, strong people who are getting distracted by the trauma. Listen, you can't stop it from happening, but oh, my friends, when it happens and folks are gambling, they're betting that you're going to be set back. And instead of being set back, you recognize it's nothing but a setup for the comeback in the next stage of your life. I want to be an example to someone today that is struggling. You're at a crossroad and you're saying to yourself, Williams, listen, I'm not bothering nobody. I try to do my best to be a good model citizen, and all I want to do is just mind my business. I had a person that said that to me, and I said to them, well, you know, there's this mantra that says, when you stop going out getting in trouble, trouble will come and find its way at your door. Am I talking good to anybody? That the fact that you woke up this morning and you were saying, I'm going to mind my own business, and then the darn phone rang, and on the other end of the phone was trauma. Somebody trying to get you off your course. But I came today to serve notice on somebody. My good mentors on the phone. Good morning. On the broadcast this morning, Mr. Gene Flanagan, a mentor ever since my elementary days in school. It is awesome to see you ready today in the pews. I want to talk to somebody today that says to themselves, I'm trying to make sense of why sometimes I take one step forward and it seems like life gives me two steps backwards. Well, I want to tell you, it's called trauma. This thing, which is unpredictable, sometimes it comes as what we call a curveball. Listen, you're looking for it. Am I talking good to anybody today? You got some folks who are naysayers, they're haters, they drinking haterade, and you expected it out of them. And out of nowhere, here comes an unexpected event. And guess what? That event now has you in the down tailspin of your life. Number one, because it came from somewhere or from somebody that you were not even anticipating. Oh, I wish I had time to tell you about the number of times I've been in trauma because I didn't expect it to come from the direction or the person that it came from. Let me talk to somebody today. You've done your level best trying to help somebody, trying to inspire somebody, and instead of them saying thank you, you get the notification that they're out there putting your name out on a signboard, trying to run you down. Am I talking good to anybody today that you have done nothing but try to help somebody, and instead of them saying thank you, they created an incident which now becomes traumatic in your life? Now, my friend, I want to talk to you today about 8 tips on how to handle trauma. Listen, I want to say in no uncertain terms, if you're Black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, listen, Asian, it does not matter. Trauma does not discriminate. If you're rich, if you're poor, listen, we know that life has some unexpected turns. And I'm telling you right now that if you live in this life, you're going to have some traumatic experiences. Yes. And the thing is that many times, if I'll be honest, it's one thing for the trauma to come from somebody that you already know don't have your best interest. Can I talk good? I know some people, they would celebrate this morning if they found out I had a fall. Yes, I know them. When I said it, there were some names that came to mind. I expect traumatic events from them, lying on you, talking about you, trying to put stumbling blocks in your way. I expect those. But when you have done all you know to do to help somebody, and instead of them being grateful, you find out that they are just straight up unthankful. And not only are they unthankful, they're now trying to use their energies to set you back. Let's get at it today. I hope you're able to take some notes today, because we're here trying to give you some tools to put in your toolbox. Now, we talked last week. This is part 2. You can always go back to the YouTube channel and review sessions 1. But last week, we tried to give you some signs to look after when you talk about traumatic experiences. I want you to know they are uncertain at times. And sometimes, if you're not careful, they even cause you to even question your own stability. These signs, they are triggers today, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Listen to this. These things, something as simple as a traffic accident, these traumatic experiences, or a plane crash, or somebody was in a violent crime. I just want you to understand that there are so many different types of traumatic experiences. There's a terror attack, or what we're living in still now, there's global pandemic, which many are arguing we're on the post-pandemic, but that's still debatable. The reality is we've lived through this pandemic, and the pandemic, when you say the word, creates trauma for some. There's natural disasters like these hurricanes or earthquakes. But the reality is, sometimes, my friend, when these things happen, I find that people go into shock. Yes, I'm telling you right now that there are times I've been in the church. I want to make it real plain that I was in church doing kingdom ministry and I was inflicted, yes, with a traumatic event in the kingdom. And it left me in a state of shock for a while. Sometimes I felt confused because I couldn't rationale out how a person could be on a kingdom track and then being used by an adversary at the very same time. My friends, let me talk to somebody today that if you live in this world, sometimes it'll make you be confused, or sometimes you even be fearful. I know people, they don't want to go out because they've had such a traumatic experience. The pain was so deep until they put up a wall, a fence. Who am I speaking to today? That this feeling that you feel like you numb. My friends, I'm telling you, it is a symptom of a traumatic experience, because there are times when you can be hurt so bad. The infliction is so deep until you become numb. You don't feel anything. You don't want to even be around people because of the overwhelming, deep-seated hurt. And I want to tell you something. It causes conflicting emotions. Yes, let's deal with it for a moment, because sometimes the tragedy behind these traumatic events, it'll have a person crying one moment, laughing another, and then confused all in the same hour, sometimes all at once. Yes, these are emotions, but they're not limited to these people or experiences, events themselves. Sometimes, can I give you another one? Looking at the news. My friends, am I talking to anybody today that if you're not careful, all the doom and gloom from the TV, if you're not careful, there's nothing good happening nowhere based on some of these news stations. And so you have to limit yourself, yes, to some of these traumatic experiences. We call them traumatic stressors. Yes, and I tell you something, they can work on your sense of security. And not only that, sometimes leaving you feeling helpless, and most importantly, feeling vulnerable, like you're exposed to somebody's will to do harm to you. I can tell you another one, a traumatic experience. How about the death of a loved one? My friends, I want to talk with you that there are so many traumatic experiences. You get that unexpected call and it just knocks you off your feet, whether it's the death of a loved one or the death of your career. You get a call that they say they're downsizing the company after 25 years, and now you find yourself unemployed, out there on the market trying to redress up your resume. Listen, I'm not talking to anybody today. There are so many different types of traumatic stressors. They're triggers. And what we wanted to do today was to make sure that you have some good tips to help you along the way. Now, let's get at it today. I want to talk, excuse me, I want to talk to you today about 8 tips. All right. But we talked last week. I just want to give you some of the symptoms. I'm just going to run through them real briefly. Sometimes when you go through a traumatic event, you experience shock and disbelief. You experience fear, sadness, or grief. Sometimes you feel helpless. Another symptom is you feel guilt. You have another symptom of anger. Sometimes the traumatic event leaves you feeling shame. I've been there. And you almost are bearing a shame for somebody else's actions. Like you're just shamed that you were even put in that circle of that event. You really didn't have anything to do with it, but they included you in it and it brought shame or even disbelief. All right. But today, this session is about dealing with traumatic events. And I want to give you 8 tips. Number 1, if you're taking notes, is to minimize media exposure. My friend, if you are in the middle of the fight of your life, you don't want to be watching the news or checking social media just before bed, or refrain from repeatedly viewing disturbing footage. You would be surprised that we are what we experience. We are a product of our environment. And you would be surprised. Listen, there are people I've never seen the likeness of people that take to social media when they have a traumatic experience. I saw 2 people, I mean, every bit of their business was on social media in a post. And so what I'm saying to you is when you have a traumatic event or you feel like the stressor is there, the first thing you want to do is limit your access to media coverage. Try to avoid distressing images and video clips. If you want to stay up to date on events, read newspapers or reports rather than watching television and viewing video clips of events. Because sometimes, my friend, can I tell you something? Some of that foolishness that's on these media clips is not all the way true. And sometimes with video enhancements and things, you would be surprised at the number of things that are not wholly true on some of these media outlets. So I'm just going to ask you, if coverage makes you feel overwhelmed, take a complete break from the news. That's right. Give yourself a break. Avoid TV and online news and stop checking social media for a couple of days until your traumatic stress symptoms ease up and you're able to move on. Number 1, first thing is minimize media exposure. I know people that they are social media addicts. Every other minute they posting something or either up there reading something. My friends, at some point you have to limit yourself to some of that stuff on social media because it's not all the way accurate. Number 2, when you're dealing with stressors and traumatic events, accept your feelings. I cannot tell you the number of people who are walking around in denial. Traumatic stressors can cause you to experience all kinds of difficult and surprising emotions, including shock, anger, and guilt, as we said before. These emotions are normal reactions to the loss of safety and security. Did you hear what I said? Quit trying to act like you're not human. God gave us emotions for a reason. They are expressors and relievers to help us keep in check and in touch with our inner selves, as well as life that comes in the wake of a disaster. Accept these feelings and allow yourself to feel what you feel. It is necessary for the healing, because so many people, they can't even begin the healing process because they won't even acknowledge that they're in the middle of a traumatic event. Dealing with painful emotions, listen, give yourself time to heal and to mourn any losses you've experienced. Whether it's a job, listen, take time and acknowledge that it hurt. Take time and acknowledge that you feel that you were not wholly treated right because you gave all this time to a job, gave all this time to a relationship, gave all this time to a church family. Listen, and now all of a sudden you have a traumatic event. I talked to a young lady that said she joined the church. Listen to this. She joined the church because she was in the middle of an abusive relationship. The husband was abusing her. And she joined this church. They began to mentor mentor her and try to corral around her. But the abuse became so overwhelming that she utterly opted out of the abuse and filed for divorce. Do you know the same people put her on a signboard and started ridiculing her and saying all kinds of awful things to this young lady, and who was, by the way, a single mother. And she was determined that her child was not going to be brought up in an abusive relationship. And the church, the place which was supposed to be a refuge, turned into a place of destruction for her. And so, as I say, when these things happen, you have to acknowledge that it hurt, you got wounded by it, but you need time to heal. Don't try to force the healing process. My friend, I don't know who I'm talking to today, but grief is a process. And so many Christians, I want to talk directly to the believers. Somehow or another, we have to put on this face or this image that we're disconnected from our emotions, but you have to be patient with the pace of recovery. And I say this, when we were coming up as children, we always had to have a Bible verse. Anybody ever had that when you were coming up that you couldn't even eat or nothing? My grandparents, they would let you sit around that table until you see a Bible verse. Well, we would all get around the table, and everybody would always say the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. John 9. And so what we found is that verse was a public acknowledgement that Jesus was in touch with his emotions. Not only that, during the week of Passion, you do remember Jesus goes into the temple and they've turned his house, the house of God, into a house of the den of thieves. Jesus was angry, the text says, and he turned over the tables. My friend, you have to be patient with the pace of recovery. So many people are trying to act like this big Superman or this big Superwoman and try to say, oh, I'm over that. Well, yes, but be patient with the process. Be prepared for difficult and volatile emotions. Sometimes the emotions come and it makes you feel like you want to just yell. I've done it. Got in a place by myself, nobody around but just me and my feelings and God, and I yelled until I felt release. Hear me when I say, because if you don't let it out, it'll cause what we call internal damage. That's not a good place. Allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling without judgment or guilt. Step number two, accept your feelings. I don't know who I'm talking to today, but I'm telling you right now, I want you to hear me. Good morning, Brother Herbert Green from Jacksonville. Listen, we're talking about traumatic events and how best to handle them. We're all Pastor Daryl Napper, one of the preachingest men on 2 feet. God bless you this morning. I am so happy today to help my God brother Joseph Nance. Good morning, all the way in Winston-Salem today. I want you to hear me say, Mr. Flanagan, society is just now getting men permission to be vulnerable and express their feelings. Listen, and I say to men, listen, there is no harm in expressing yourself, because the flip side of not doing it is causing internal damage to yourself. And I don't know who told us that because you're a believer that you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to have these emotions that God gave them to us. Can you hear me when I talk to somebody today, preacher, teacher, deacon, mother, missionary? I come to tell you that God gave us emotions. And sometimes in the church, we're the most guilty parties because we know internally that we have some emotions that we are not dealing with. And guess what? If we don't deal with them, I always say this. Hear me when I say these words. If you don't manage your emotions will manage you. And what will happen, I've seen it time and time again, that people do stupid things at the most inopportune time because they don't know how to manage their emotions. There's no harm. I want to talk to somebody today. Listen, there's no harm in being angry. I've gotten angry in church. I've gotten angry at church folks. Yes, I have. I don't know who I'm talking to today because the Bible is clear. He says anger, but sin not. There is no harm in being in touch with your emotions. And I want to tell somebody today that if you don't be in touch with your emotions will have you doing things that will cause you to have some remorse. We call it buyer's remorse. And so today, if you're having a traumatic event, if you have a deep-seated hurt, if you have something that you can't quite seem to get off your mind, I want to tell you, first of all, you got to limit yourself to this media because there's so many negative things out there. And then number two, you have to learn to accept your feelings. That's exactly right. I could take a whole day on just accepting your feelings, dealing with painful emotions. I want to leave that section by saying, be patient with the pace of recovery. And then tip number 3 is challenge your sense of helplessness. You know, sometimes I have found myself, the traumatic event was so overwhelming. I almost felt like I was helpless. Overcoming traumatic stress is often about taking action. You have to have positive actions, not negative. These can help overcome feelings of fear and helplessness and hopelessness, and even some small actions can make a big difference. So sometimes what I say to people, challenge your sense of helplessness. If you're in the middle of a traumatic event and you feel like you're just helpless, like this thing is overshadowing my thinking, it's overshadowing my ability to really get get up and spunk about myself, can I give you some tips? Number 1, volunteer your time. Go to a blood bank or donate to a favorite charity. Or I say, go to a school and make sure it's a Title I school. That's a school that's really poverty stricken and low socioeconomical status. Listen, my friends, do you know what it would do to a young, marginalized, underrepresented child to see someone come and volunteer to be a reading buddy to them? What I'm telling you is, when the traumatic event happens in your life, take charge of it. You ought to challenge that helplessness and go and volunteer somewhere. Go down to a soup kitchen. Do you know how many people that are homeless? I know I'm talking good today. And the reality is, it would mean everything for them to come through that line and see somebody like you and just offer them a small word of affirmation. God bless you this morning. Have a great day. God is on your side. My friend, what you have to do is don't give in to the helplessness. It is a sign of a traumatic stressor. But if you go and get involved, go call someone else who's going through. Can I tell you, I've done that. I've been going through myself, and I'll sit down for a moment and I'll think about someone who's going through something, and I'll send them a text and say, I just had you on my mind. I just wanted you to know, and I'll give them an excerpt of an affirmation of some kind. My friend, what I'm telling you is, you're taking charge and challenging your sense of helplessness. It sounds like too much of a commitment. Remember that simply being helpful and friendly to others can deliver stress-reducing pleasure. And that's the key word, pleasure. Do you not know that the science says that when you do things that makes you feel pleasurable, that you release pleasure, helpful enzymes? Oh yes, my friend, that's what you have to do. is you have to figure out what can you do to someone else to reduce your stress and cause a feeling of pleasure. Challenge your sense of helplessness. Help a neighbor carry in the groceries. Hold a door open for a stranger. Share a smile with the people you meet during the day. My friends, I'm telling you right now, love isn't love until you give it away. And that's why I'm saying that we all have stress, we all have trauma, but we can't control the trauma, but we can control our response to the trauma. And watch this. Sometimes the very people that inflicted the trauma, it blows their mind. How in the world can you continue to be so positive? How in the world can you continue to be good and sow good deeds, even though they know that they have done everything in their power to bring you down? I tell you, it's hard to keep a good person down, and you cannot defeat a happy person. The word of God says, happiness and laughter is medicine to the soul. Let me tell you, my friend, number 3 is you have to take charge of your sense of helplessness. Listen, connect with others affected by traumatic events. Can I tell you something? I'm in the field of Alzheimer's and dementia and memory loss, and sometimes one of the best responses to a traumatic event is to be, watch this, create a support group. Do you know what it would be if somebody in the community found out that you were the cancer survivor in your community and you created a cancer survivor support group? My God, from on high. Listen, maybe you're the person that had gotten laid off of a job and you had to start a new career. Create a support group. You'd be surprised at the number of people who have some life challenges, but we would have never known if we hadn't took charge of our helpless situation and feelings. Now, I want to tell you, number 1, I keep working through them. Number 1 is simple. Limit yourself to media exposure. Number 2, accept your feelings. Number 3, we just talked about, challenge your sense of helplessness. Number 4 is get moving. There it is right there. Somebody today needs to get up off that seat of do nothing and get moving. Yes, I want to give a big shout out to my God sister in Richmond, Sister Judith Ward. God bless you. My cousin down in Wallace, North Carolina, Paula Everett Eccles Miller. Give my auntie a big hug. My classmate, Bay Williams, absolutely from the Winston-Salem area. My homie, Terrence Hall from down in Jacksonville. I'm telling you today, we're on a campaign to talk about what you can do when you get a traumatic experience. You cannot stop it. You can't avoid it. But what we can do is have some tips on how to handle it. Number 4 is get involved. I don't know today who it is, but you needed to hear this, that you had a traumatic event experience. Maybe it was a messy divorce. Maybe it was some kind of just a traumatic relationship that just terminated. Listen, abruptly. You didn't even see it coming. But what I want to tell you is tip number 4 is you have to get moving. It may be the last thing you feel like doing when you're experiencing traumatic express. But the research is clear. But exercising can burn off adrenaline and release feel good endorphins. Oh, there it is, my friends, to boost your mood. When you exercise and get moving, you then burn off that adrenaline, which is pumping the wrong types of feelings, and you can begin to release feel good endorphins. Listen, to boost your mood. Physical activity, my friend. Science has proven, watch this, can really cause and rouse your nervous systems from that stuck feeling and help you move on from that traumatic event. I want to say that again. Physical activity performed mindfully can also arouse your nervous system. It's all connected. Try exercise that is rhythmic. Find your favorite song. Now, my friends, don't go get no slow song that's going to take you down through there. Get you a song that's got some fast, pumping, thriving music to it. And what it does is it connects your body, your soul, and your mind. We know for sure this engages both your arms and legs and head and body, hips. And what we found is walking, running, swimming, basketball, or dancing, just a few of the choices. In my line of work, I talk to people who are seniors. I'm in the gerontology, which is the study of seniors. And what we find is sometimes seniors, they can't move like they did when they was 30 or 40 years ago. And so we have what we call sittercise. What it says is sit in the chair and just lift your legs. Sit in the chair, move your arms. Sit in the chair, move your head. Sit in the chair, move your neck. What we're saying is if you can't move everything, at least move something. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Listen, we have to get moving. I'm telling you right now, when you move, you're releasing some feel-good endorphins. Listen, scientifically proven to help you feel good instead of those other enzymes which are traumatic. You do know, as we said before, if you're having too much adrenaline, if you're having too much hatred built up, if you're having too much of that tenseness, it's not healthy for you. And you have to get moving. Make a conscious choice. I'm better than that. And I'm not going to give in. As a matter of fact, I'm going to find a way to get myself moving. And then when you do that, you'll boost your energy and your motivation. And what I want to say is short bursts of activity are as beneficial as one long session. Woo, talk good, Williams. I'm trying to help somebody. In other words, you can do 5 sessions throughout the day as just as well as you can do one 50-minute session. What I'm telling you is that you have the choice. You are in charge. But what you have to do is make a conscious choice that I will not sit here. I will not give in to this helplessness. Yes, the event happened. Yes, you got the divorce. Yes, you had a bad breakup. Yes, they laid you off the job. Yes, they hurt you in the church. Yes, the family member turned their back on you. But you have to take charge, my friend, because if you take charge, you will begin to see that moving is one of the best therapeutic things that you can do. I want to say one more thing about get moving. Even in the arena of Alzheimer's, do you know that the research now says that sitting in a chair is the new smoking? You know, 20 or 30 years ago, they said smoking was like a death sentence. Well, what the research now is saying, the National Alzheimer's Association and others have concluded that this sedimentary mindset, you know, when we was in school, Mr. Flanagan taught us about sedimentary rocks. This notion that a rock will sit there and the longer it sits there, the harder and harder and harder it becomes. The same is true for us in our bodies. We have to get moving, my friend. Listen, sitting on the sofa and becoming a couch potato with that remote in your hand and in pajamas on, listen, is a death sentence. You got to get moving, even if it's short bursts. And oh, by the way, usually when I do this part in my sermons, I tell people, listen, God helps those who help themselves. There's a lady trying to find a new man, even though she's been in a bad relationship. The relationship is ended, it's over, and then now you sitting on the sofa with the remote, with the pajamas in your own, and you trying to say, I want a new man. Well, listen, honey, get off the sofa, put that remote down, put your nice rags on, go out to the mall, walk, and believe me, when you expose yourself, you can have an opportunity for someone to find you and yourself. Listen, my friends, I have to move, but not before I say one more time. When you have a traumatic experience, it is so easy to give into the notion to sit inside, cut the lights out, and just basically check out. But I come to serve notice on you today that there is another option. There is life after a breakup. There is life after a bad accident. Listen, there is life after a bad health encounter. What you have to do is to make your mind up to get moving. Number 5 is to reach out to others. I'm trying to get these in before my time run out this morning, but I want to tell you I'm on assignment because I've seen too many good people get hit from the blind side by some traumatic event. You didn't see it coming. You didn't sign up for it. You didn't even feel like you deserved it, but it happened. It's here and you're here now, and you need some what we call some tips to help you get out of that slump and get back to life. Life is worth living. I want to tell you something. One of my favorite hymns is "Because He Lives, I Can Face Tomorrow." Number 5 is reach out to others. You may be tempted to withdraw from friends and social activities following some traumatic event. I know many of my friends who have gone through some very heartbreaking events, and then you look around and nobody's seen them. Nobody's heard from them. They literally just check out, like the world just stops. But connecting face to face with other people is a vital necessity for recovery. Can I say that again? Your ability to interact with other people is vital to your recovery. The simple act of talking face to face with another human can trigger hormones that relieve traumatic stress. My friends, everybody needs somebody. And I want to tell you right now, you don't have to talk about your traumatic experience. And I say this to my ministers, and I want to help somebody today. I was just recently sharing this just this week with a group of deacons that when you go, for example, to someone who's just experienced a traumatic event, maybe they've lost a very close loved one, and somehow or another, you're trying to figure out, you want to help them. You know that they're in that struggle with their emotions right now, and you're trying to say, well, I need to go there and I need to have this long list of things, and I want to help somebody today. Sometimes when people are in their traumatic experiences, they just need to know that they're not in it by themselves. And the very fact that you come, I have gone, did pastoral visits with people who've lost loved ones, and I didn't say hardly anything. All I said to them was, I came here to let you know you're not in this by yourself. My friend, it is a life-changing affirmation, because when the event comes, humanly, we want to check out. We want to just disassociate. But I'm telling you, we are humans and we're built for human interaction and touch. We are tangible people. And so reaching out to others, you don't have to go there and say, child, tell me all about it. If the person wants to talk about it, fine. Some people, therapy is that they talk about it. Some people, therapy is they just figure out how to get through it. They don't necessarily want to talk about it. And you, as the person who's coming there for support, you have to let the person guide the emotion. Don't go there with no long list of scriptures trying to tell them all these things, because can I tell you something? Typically, most people have had enough in their past to connect spiritually with whatever's going on. The challenge is the event is there and they need somebody to be by them sides. I want you to maybe write this down. I try to live by this. It's one thing to have somebody on your side, but it's an even better thing to have them by your side. My friend, I'm telling you right now, You don't have to go there. You don't have to give them no long speech. Sometimes just your presence alone is enough to say you're not in this by yourself. And comfort comes from feeling connected and involved with other people. Talk about and do normal things with friends and loved ones. Find something positive to talk about, maybe even something funny, something reassuring. These things that have nothing to do with the triggered event can reduce the stress. Expand your social network. I was recently in a community event, and I was telling every person, uh, in order for this event to be successful, everybody needs to go out and engage 5 people in their network. This young lady, she's 32, and she said, I don't know 5 people. And I thought, you mean you lived in this world 32 years and you don't know 5 people? My friends, we have to learn to expand our social network. Get out of that house. Cut those lights on. Put some clothes on and go out into the community. Go to the park. You'd be surprised how many people out there walking for their help. And then I've been out there walking. If somebody passed me 2 or 3 times, next thing I know, we are walking buddies because we're all out there doing the same thing. Well, I talked to a young lady. Somebody gonna be shocked by this one. Get moving. I told her to go to the supermarket. You'd be surprised at the number of brothers that know how to cook. She said, Williams, it worked. I went over to the fruit section, and there was a man trying to size up the kind of cabbage for his dinner. And I picked one up and said, next thing you know, we were talking about cabbage, my friend. I'm trying to help somebody that you can't stay in that house. You have to learn to get out and make new friends and create new hobbies. Take advantage of support groups or church gatherings. Look in the community section of the paper and find things to make new friends. Tip number 5 is reach out to others. Now listen, reaching out when you're cut off from others. While substitutes for face-to-face contact doesn't have the same mental health benefits, sometimes it's not always possible to see friends and loved ones in person following a disaster or a crisis. We know this to be the case from the pandemic, but it don't stop you from texting and it don't stop you from picking up that phone. What I'm trying to tell you is that in this life, you cannot stay secluded. You must get out and engage your network. My cousin, Carlotta Marble, God bless you today. It's always glad to see you. My friend, brother Jerry Bonds, all the way in Warrenton, North Carolina. Awesomely great to see you. I'm trying to help somebody today. Our broadcast is about traumatic events. They happen. We cannot stop them from happening. But blessed be to God, we can have some tips to help you to get through them once they happen. I want to share with you. I'm trying to get through. My time is just about out. I've got through 5 today. And if y'all will give me an opportunity to go through the last few on our next broadcast, I wanted to stop on my end to just give a recap. We talked today about how to deal with traumatic stressors. We know that life happens. And in this life, sometimes you can't control what happens, but you can control your response to it. We gave you some tips. Number 1, minimize media exposure. Number 2, we said accept your feelings. Quit trying to act like you don't feel. We all have been given emotions. Number 3, we say challenge your sense of helplessness. Get up from there. Go volunteer somewhere. Go help somebody else and release those positive enzymes that will help you even get through that. We said number 4 was get moving. Don't sit still. Don't allow yourself to become hard. Even your heart becomes hard, but get out of there and get moving. And then finally, number 5 today, we said reach out to others. Expand your social network. Find someone that you can give love away to. You would be surprised that I love to travel. Can I tell you? Sometimes when I have traumatic experiences, I will travel. Yes, I will. As a matter of fact, this is a good place for me to close today to talk about what I call self-care. Can I tell you that just recently I was so overwhelmed until I took a 10-day sabbatical. Absolutely. I said to the church for 10 days, listen, I'm going to be unavailable. I took 10 days off from work. I'm unavailable. And then I even said to my family, I'm going to be off on a sabbatical. When I came back from those 10 days, my life had renewed energy, renewed outlook. And then guess what? I even met a few new friends along the way. I close the day by telling you life is going to happen. You cannot stop it, but you can have some life-changing tips that help you along the way. Now, I feel good. They told me, you look like you've been revived. I said, revive, refresh, and revitalize. Can I help somebody on a Saturday morning? You need to figure out how you can have the maximum positive output when life happens. This is what I have for you today. My time is just about out, but I did not want to close this session without letting you understand that life happens. And can I tell you something? If you don't manage the emotions, it will cause you to do stupid stuff, that you would not have done if you were revived, if you were refreshed, if you were renewed, because you would be at the top of your mental game. Today, somebody needs to take a slight sabbatical and ask God to help you to revive, retool, and regenerate. I promise you that when you come off your sabbatical, you'll be able to run through troops and leap over walls, because God will renew you. They that wait on God, he says, he'll renew their strength. They'll mount up with wings of an eagle. I want to help somebody. I feel good on a Saturday because I'm smart enough to understand that this life, you have to have some tools to help you. Can I pray with you today? I want to say once again, God loves you. Listen, he has a great plan for you. And the best part of all is that your setbacks are nothing but a setup for the next stage in your life. God, we thank you now. Once again, Father, bless everybody under the sound of my voice. I pray, Lord, that as we leave this space, you would even give us the tools that are necessary to have a very productive and inspirational walk with you. Remind us that what we're going through is only to make us better and not bitter. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Listen, until next time, I want you to join back in. I got about 3 more tips I want to give you, but I want you to meet me on next Saturday for 60 minutes as we talk about how to deal with trauma. 8 tips to put you on the path to success. And watch this as I close today. David, come on up. He wants to testify in Psalms 23 that the ones who set the traps for you, God will make them sit at the table while he prepares a table before you. My friends, in my preaching career, I've come to understand that text to be that God won't kill the naysayers. God won't kill the haters. He'll bring them to the table and make them watch God's favor be all over you. And ain't a thing they can do about it. The Lord bless you today. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you until we meet again. God bless you.